What's up, guys? Jeremy Conn, the Lowdown here, Pickdawgz.com. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification button. A couple things I want to go over before I get into the plays for today. You know, we've talked about this, that I kind of record earlier than most. So the one thing I wanted to put out there too, my Twitter handle is at JConnSports. It's CONN. And if you guys hit me up on social media, I try to answer everything. Because if you have questions on game day, hey, are you still on this? Do you like this? Maybe there was a pitching change. Maybe because I'm doing this early, we didn't have the right pitchers. There's a game today where I think there's going to be a bullpen game. We'll talk about that later. But I try to be as upfront as possible with people. And yesterday, giving out a free play for at the end, which would have been one of my plays, and we're constantly looking at it. But the one thing I don't get to see is some of the lines in the line movement. I would prefer to do a live show. I don't even know if that's something possible here. Maybe I got to talk to the powers that be. But yeah, this is as much content as I can get. I like to go over. For example, I have an algorithm for baseball players, like props and things like that. It's predictive. I have the weather algorithm. I have another algorithm for games and kind of comparing and seeing what they like to go along with how I've always done my plays. And I know some people laugh at the weather algorithm, but like, once I started mixing that in with my plays, for example, if I'm breaking down a game and I'm like, oh, this is a great overplay, and then I go look at the weather algorithm and it's like, oh, historically, they hit home runs 25% more in games with this typical weather, then yeah, I'm going to like that. Or if runs are scored at a higher premium. So, and I've mixed that in and it's helped me make quite a bit of money. So I love doing this during baseball season. There are obviously things that I will get wrong. You'll get plays wrong. Look, if you're successful at this, you're still going to miss, 40-some% of your plays. So, and that's if you're really good. It is kind of weird though too, like to give stuff out early. And I know some people said, well, I don't have a line for this. What do you think? I kind of have an idea where the line is, but I can't tell you that's going to be the line and go with that. Every once in a while, you'll get fooled where maybe the weather changes overnight. Maybe, some things are different as we talked about pitchers, whatever. But yeah, those are things that I think really do factor in and work well with baseball. And the one thing you'll learn about me is I'm honest to a fault. And I know people say that all the time. I'll have diarrhea of the mouth and I'll tell you things about me that I shouldn't. I went on my radio show and told the time my wife caught me jerking off. It's not pleasant. And now when she walks by me, she goes, but it's what happens, I shit my pants on the air one day. You weren't going to hear me cuss much because I've kind of trained myself in front of the microphone not to do that. But like, I like telling these embarrassing stories because frankly, I'm not embarrassed by it. But I was doing a night show and when I first got in the radio, and I don't remember what I ate for dinner, but my stomach was just having a battle. I mean, it was fighting. And I had this guy on, it was an author of a book, and I did a night show from 6 to 8, and it was a 5,000 watt station. For you people who don't know it, I'm on a 50,000 watt station now. Like, if you weren't on the road, you probably wouldn't hear me unless you were listening online. Sometimes the wind would blow and the signal would go out, So it's like I was training myself to cut my own teeth in this industry by talking to myself and getting used to it, because doing a solo show or doing a solo pod, there is an art form to it, and maybe at some point I'll get it down. but yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. So, but yeah, when I was on the radio, I had this. I feel my stomach turning, and I go to the author of the book. Hey, tell everybody where they can find your book. Oh, thank you for that. And he goes on some 5-minute spiel talking about his book. Meanwhile, I'm just, I'm gripping and bearing and like, come on, please. And then finally, it was like the most freeing thing ever. I just said, all right. Just let go. I got little pit stains. Let go and shit my pants on the radio. So what are you going to do? You can't go anywhere. I'm doing a solo show, and it's like if I can't get out, this is what's going to happen. So you end up washing your ass in the sink. All right, maybe I went too far with that one. But I did want to say one other thing because I was thinking about it. I go to a lot of concerts. I do music. I love it across the board. It doesn't matter what kind. I saw the Lumineers in Ireland. I'm going to see them in D.C. in September. I'm seeing Mumford & Sons on Sunday, and you're like, oh, you just like folk music. No, and then I saw Wu-Tang and Run the Jewels last Friday. I try to get to as many concerts as I can. It's just something my wife and I like to do, and we love live music. In saying that, one of the things that you guys will start to see me wearing are Mo Strong shirts, and my tattoo on my arm here says Mo Strong. And if you guys aren't from Baltimore in this area, maybe you don't know the story. I tell people, go to YouTube, or you're on YouTube now, You can look up Gift of Gaba. It's Gaba, and it's this is my favorite thing to talk about. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is the music I was playing for him when he passed. Before he passed, I'll get to this story. It came on the radio, and it got me thinking. Like next month is the anniversary of Mo Gaba's death. Mo was born, and I guess about 6 months or so, they took pictures, and instead of his eyes being red in the picture, it was white. So doctor said, hey, we should take a look at this. And then they found out he did have, basically a cancerous tumor that caused him to lose his vision. So the kid was blind his whole life. So he started calling my radio show at the age of 9, and I befriended him. He battled cancer 4 times until he finally succumbed to it a few years ago. I mean, he'd be graduating high school now, which is just weird to think about. But anyway, I gave him my radio show before he passed, and we did the Big Mo Show. And the NFL Network, ESPN, they all came to town, and we recorded some stuff, and he won 2 sports Emmys posthumously. He beat out Kobe Bryant even after Kobe Bryant's death because this story is just amazing. So if you get a chance to watch it, it's 14 minutes. I think you'll get a little teary-eyed. He was one of the best you could possibly imagine, just a funny kid, outgoing, and you wouldn't think he had a problem in the world when he was dealt one of the worst hands. So I'll stop rambling about Mo, but you'll see me wearing those shirts. You'll hear me talk about him. He's in the NFL Hall of Fame. He's in the Orioles Hall of Fame. I got a street named after him. I have talking bobbleheads of him. Maybe I'll get him and you guys can hear his laugh because he had the best laugh ever. All right. You care about the gambling stuff, not my old stories, but please, if you get a chance, check that out. Let's get to these games. And one of the things I wanted to point out to you guys as I'm doing this, like when I talk about my algorithms, I know you can't see and read all this. Those are strikeout props. I literally write every player down by hand, what his prop number is, what his projection is, go back and look at the games and see, do I like this player prop for strikeouts? Are we plus money? Is it minus too much? Like you're kind of looking and grading them out. And usually I find a couple a day to kind of go over, but it's just another part of what I do. And when I was playing DFS a lot, I still play it, but I was playing, God, I don't even want to say how many tournaments I was in on a daily basis. And if it wasn't a lot of tournaments, they were big dollar ones, which makes those sweats really fun. But, all of that aside, I just think that as much information as you can get can only help you. You can throw away what you think doesn't matter and use what you think does. So I'm going to get into these games. Again, if you guys have questions, are you still in this game? Do you really like it? You can hit me up on social media at JConnSports. That's CONN. Let's get into it. All right, starting off with game number 1, Giants and Guardians. It's an afternoon game, quite a few afternoon games today. Here's the thing, 12 to 14 mile an hour winds going out. It's 58 degrees there. And again, those aren't cold temperatures, but when you go to San Francisco, if you've ever been there, it's one of the weirdest weather situations because in the summertime, you'll be freezing your ass off at times. And then at times you'll be sweating your ass off in the same day. I don't know that the weather there is as drunk as Ireland, but it fluctuates. And in these colder temps, and as I've said, I think people are going to see today there's wind blowing out. I'll tell you all the stadiums that wind's blowing out, and you do with that what you will. But with this one, the wind is blowing out at Oracle. But it's Gavin Williams and Logan Webb. And I think, when I look at these two pitchers, I love Gavin Williams. Gavin Williams is a big strikeout guy, fly ball pitcher. And you're looking at the wind blowing out. Yeah, he could have somebody run into a couple. As I've said multiple times, Oracle Park, the Giants Stadium, is the least affected by wind. So wind blowing out at 20 miles an hour is more like 10 miles an hour there. And I don't care what anybody says. Wind blowing out is definitely a help to bats. How could it not be? No matter how small that is or how high it is. But when you get certain numbers, you're like, oh, my God, I got to take this. For example, I had the Cubs over as my weather play of the day. I don't even remember what day it was. Everything runs together now. But they had all these guys on the base paths, and it was 5-3 final. The total was 9. And I'm going, man, can we just get a base hit to knock somebody in? There were base runners on every inning. I mean, it's baseball, and these are the things that happen. But I like the under here. I even though we're looking at a guy in Gavin Williams that can give up the home run ball, as I'm looking at Logan Webb, I love his 4-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. He doesn't put guys on base. He just doesn't. And what a solid pitcher there. And both of these lineups, we can admit, are a little wanting at times offensively. I like this Giants team a lot. I'm interested to see what else they add now after adding Rafael Devers. But under would be a lean for me in this game. Let's go to the Mets and Braves. The wind is right to left in this game, about 7 miles an hour, which, again, not much help. There's light rain in the forecast, and I've said this about Atlanta Stadium. When there's rain in the forecast and it gets hot, and it will be humid there, these are the types of games I like to target for overs. I would lean over in this game, but herein lies the rub and why this game wouldn't be a play for me on a typical day, like why I wouldn't bet this. It's Clay Holmes and Spencer Strider, and I've been watching Spencer Strider. He's starting to look like the Spencer Strider we saw his first couple games. I mean, he's 1-5 or something this year. ERA's up there. Not a lot of strikeouts like you'd expect. But if you start, you'll go through it. You'll see Spencer Strider and good old Calfzilla out there just humping it up around 100 miles an hour. He's going to start striking out a lot of guys. The Mets don't strike out a ton, surprisingly. The Braves, a little bit. But Clay Holmes is a very solid starter, even though the transition from the bullpen to the starter role. And even if it ends up just being in kind of a full bullpen game, I like the Mets bullpen. In this spot, again, I would lean over the total. But, again, this is kind of one of those tough ones because I love the rain and the heat that's going to happen there. It's going to help bats. You still got to hit the damn baseball. So I would go with the over there as a lean. Now, Game 3 that I wanted to talk about was the Cardinals and the White Sox. And if you guys aren't familiar, what was that, U.S. Cellular Field, I think, with the White Sox? God, these teams change their the names of the stadium so much, it's frustrating. But with the White Sox Stadium, this used to be the stadium you would target for home runs. We talk about Coors all the time, the thin air, and how big it is in the outfield. Well, with this stadium, more home runs were typically hit at this stadium than Coors Field. On a yearly basis. And when you look at what the White Sox have been trotting out as far as starters, there's not a lot you're going to be scared of. This is a really interesting one because Adrian Hauser's going. His numbers look good. He is definitely due for some regression, negative regression, because he's an extreme ground ball pitcher. And when you get the wind blowing out, it's clearly something you want to look at with ground ball pitchers, and you want fly ball hitters. I hope this is making sense. You're going to, wait a minute. Because you want somebody that can lift the ball if they're going to throw their sinker. And when I say extreme ground ball pitcher, I don't know if there's anybody in the league that gets more ground balls than Adrian Hauser. But when he gets lit up, he gets lit up. And Eric Fetty on the other side, solid pitcher. This guy went to Japan, came back, and he looked totally different than when he was here in the States. And he's been great for the Cardinals the past, 2 years now. And by saying great, having a guy that can give you right around a sub-4 ERA or just over it and limit the damage and keep you in games, that's kind of what you're hoping from your fourth and fifth starters. And to be honest with you, if you had 5 of those guys, you're going to have a great regular season. It's just I don't know that I want to trot those guys out in the postseason against somebody else's number one, obviously when you're going to see those guys probably twice in a series. But with this game, I would lean to the over. As I said, light rain, 70 degrees, wind out to right at 6 miles an hour. I do think wind out to dead center is the best, but kind of picture what I'm telling you. If you get wind out to right, start looking at a right-handed pitcher because you're going to have more lefty bats. What does that mean? If you're hitting most lefties or pull hitters, the ball lifts, it goes out. You're looking at home runs for the lefties. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll do some parlays and throwing them together. I call them lottery tickets with a couple of home run calls and the over. All of that correlates well. You're hitting home runs. It's a better chance for the over. It doesn't mean it's always going to go over. I actually had a game that had 8 home runs in it, and it didn't go over. It was 7 solo shots and a 2-run shot, and it still didn't go over. It was a Wrigley game, just one of those crazy, crazy days years ago. So, again, with that, I would go over, and I just want to bring up the stadiums today that have wind blowing out, or the games. The Pirates game, Yankees game, Nats game, A's game, Giants, Dodgers. All of these games have wind blowing out of 10 miles an hour or more. So there are sometimes, too, when you're looking at afternoon games and wind blowing out, you get the shadows, which help a pitcher, and you'll look at a guy and go, man, how the hell did he get 6 innings of shutout ball? This guy sucks. Well, sometimes you're helped out by the shadows with guys trying to pick up, where the ball's coming in. And believe me, it does help them. I've talked to a couple Major League Baseball players that say it's so hard. There are times you're trying to find it, and you have a fraction of a second to pick it up to see not only where it's going, but what type of pitch it is. So, yeah, all of those stadiums have wind blowing out. I didn't list the retractable roof, but at Rogers Center for the Blue Jays, it fits the range of when we talked about 65 to 80 degrees to open up the roof. It does not mean they're going to open the roof. They could. The one thing I want to tell you is we have almost 20-mile-an-hour winds blowing in towards home plate. And that's a game that I would target an under, just because there's so much help with that. You're almost eliminating the long ball. Somebody's going to have to hit it at the right time to get it to go out, or just be so damn powerful they catch it. Maybe they hit a jet stream. Maybe something happens and it sneaks out in one of these smaller stadiums. But to me, those things are really important. I'll get to this last game because I know this pod is getting long, but I want to talk about a few things. So just be on the lookout for that with the wind blowing in. You'll find out. It's an early game, 3 p.m. If Rogers Center is going to open up the dome or the retractable roof. So here's my free play of the day. We're going to go back to the Pirates and Tigers game. Wind's blowing out 11 miles an hour roughly to center. This is a Paul Skeens game versus what I would believe to be a Tigers bullpen. I haven't seen a starter listed yet, but they do this often where even if they're going to have a starter or somebody like Gibson Sawyer, who I think that's his name. Yeah, Gibson Sawyer. If he's going to be the guy that goes in for 4 or 5 innings after an opener, we've seen that a couple times already. I'm going to go with the over here as my free play. Even though it's Paul Skeens, and you could sit here and tell me they don't score runs for Paul Skeens, I think the wind's going to help. It's not all that hot there. It's like mid-70s, maybe it'll approach 80s. But that being said, the wind is out to dead center at 11 miles an hour, and it's going to be a help. Even with Paul, as good as Paul Skeens is, he's going to strike out some guys. And in my opinion, that's a guy you got to outlast, and you want to get to that Pirates bullpen. So I would. My free play today would be the Tigers and Pirates to go over the total. And remember, guys, at JCon Sports on social media, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification button. I try to answer some of the comments and go back each day and go back and forth with people and answer any of the questions you may have. But today, Pirates, Yankees, Nats. I got to put my glasses on. Nats, A's, Giants, Dodgers, all wind blowing out at 10 miles an hour or more. I'm going to find a weather play of the day, as I always do, and it will be the best hitting situation of the day out of all those games. So make sure you're checking those out and looking at the premium plays. Appreciate you guys. Sorry it went so long. Maybe you enjoyed it. I'll be back tomorrow.